So I asked ChatGPT to create a financial plan for someone who's age 45 looking to retire at age 55 in 10 years' time. But this person doesn't feel like they've added enough to their pensions to have a comfortable retirement. I'm going to show you the prompt that was put into ChatGPT, the outputs, the financial plan, and I'm going to ask the question of, is the plan that ChatGPT came up with actually implementable? And will ChatGPT take the place of financial advisors in the near future? So this is the initial prompt. I'm a 45-year-old male. I'm behind contributing to my pension. I intend to retire at 55 and I'm afraid I'm running out of time. Can you create a financial plan to help me contribute more to my pension and help me retire comfortably? Please ask me any question you need to create this financial plan. Now it gives a little bit of a preamble right here, which is quite nice. I think it's really, really good, but it does need to know more. So it's asking very specific questions around the current pension status. So do I have a workplace pension, private pension, or both? How much is in the pension pot? How much you contributing? Is there employer matching going on within your workplace pension scheme? This is an important one, often one that people kind of like overlook, and it's very, very important to ask about if you're working for a big company. And do you know what your pension is invested in? Is then asking questions about the target retirement lifestyle. So how much money do you actually want to live on? Is it 20K, 30K, 40K? This is an important thing to know. And would you consider part-time or phased retirement, or is 55 a hard stop? I like what it's doing here because it's trying to gain the detail that is needed to be able to give out really good information in terms of the prompts. Budget and savings overview. So do you currently use a budgeting system? Are you currently putting money towards your pension? Is there room to increase that amount? Again, important questions. Debt and emergency fund. Do you have any outstanding debts, credit cards, loans, mortgages? What are their monthly costs? Do you have an emergency fund? And how many months' expenses does it cover? There's asking about other savings and investments. Do you have any ISAs, property, or investments? And are you using your annual allowance for tax efficient purposes? Now, again, these are really good questions because when you think about your pensions and your ISAs do have an advantage because the income at the back end is tax free, albeit you can't contribute as much as you can in a pension in an ISA. So swings and roundabouts, right? But it then talks about how it's going to build its plan. It talks about the 5 steps it's going to take. It's going to optimize contributions, maximize tax benefits, which is important, prioritize growth investments, and opposed to any other type of investment. So in this scenario, there's 10 years to go. So growth is really what you want to go for. It's going to try and minimize losses. And it does this by paying down high interest debt. And this is an important one because I think with debt, if you are servicing debt, then you're not going to have enough to be able to put in at the top of the equation here to get the amount that you need in 10 years' time. So the fact that it's highlighting this, I think, is really, really good because essentially what that does is with the efficiency you're going to be able to get by paying down high interest debt or looking at maybe some strategy to consolidate, you're going to have more money going in at the top to help you achieve your goal. Build resilience, so that's about emergency fund, to prevent pension contribution disruption. And then it's also going to model the retirement scenario as well. So I've gone ahead and I've just given it answers to the questions that it's basically asked. So how much is in the pension pot right now? 110, only got a private pension pot. No contributions from employer. Growth, it's currently invested in. You need about 50K per year when you retire. Would you consider part-time? Yes. Savings and budgets. Yes, there's no budget in place. I'll put here. How comfortable would you be putting? How much are you comfortable putting into your pension? I said £300. Debt and emergency fund. Yes, there is an emergency fund. I've given the amount of an outstanding mortgage, hypothetically. And I've also put in here that yes, there are some other investments and stuff like that as well. Actually, and no, not using the full ISA allowance. So those are the responses to all of the questions that ChatGPT has asked. So once this has all been inputted, this is what it basically comes out with. Now, it says here, goal checking. So just reiterating the points, just the sense check. Target retirement age 55, so 10 years away. Target annual income in retirement, 50K. Current pension pot 110 in a growth fund, current pension contribution to 0, available to contribute into a pension £300 a month. Now, step 1, it's saying here, is close the gap with maximum contributions. So it's saying here to draw £50,000 annually, assuming a 4% withdrawal rate, you'll need 1.25 million in your pension pot by the age of 55. So it says here in analysis, right now with 110 growing at an average of 7% annually, typically for a growth fund, if you only add £300, you're to reach 330 to 350 by 55, which is going to be short of your goal. So it's kind of letting you know the state of play at the moment based on the information that you've been given, that you've given it, and it's telling you where you're likely to end up in that forecast. It's also suggesting a solution. So it's saying increase pension contributions using salary sacrifice or lump sums. Increase contributions to at least £800 if affordable to stay on track. Use annual lump sum top-ups from your ISA investments to boost your pension up to 60 per year with tax relief. So what it's referring to there is obviously using your pension contributions, the max you can put in your pension contributions and your ISA. And actually, ChatGPT is a little bit out of date here because now you can put 60k up to 60k into your pensions, 20k into your ISA. So that's actually £80,000. Benefit from tax relief obviously is really, really important. If you're a basic rate taxpayer, that £800 contribution is only going to cost you £640. Whereas if you're a higher rate taxpayer, it will only cost you £480. Let's looking at step 2, maximize your ISA allowance. If you're not using it, it's basically just suggesting that you use stocks and shares ISAs, invest in a stocks and shares ISA, trying to max out the full £20,000. Step 3, mortgage strategy for retirement. Since your mortgage is your only debt, it's crucial to decide whether to prioritize pension contributions or overpay the mortgage. This is a really, really good question. And again, it doesn't necessarily give any specific direction here. I think if you try to input a little bit more information and answer the question with maybe your thoughts, it will give you out a little bit more. And you can play around with this, by the way, and I would encourage you to do that if you're in this predicament right now, or you're looking at a situation you're thinking about whether or not AI can help you. Given your short window, 10 years, pension contributions are likely the better move because of tax relief and compound growth. I would tend to agree with that. Yes, you can save money on the overpaying of your mortgage in interest, but it's not going to give you the capital appreciation that you need. The house might increase in value, but in the markets, it's weighing up which of the options is going to be best in terms of the potential growth you can basically get. It says here, however, consider setting a goal to pay off or significantly reduce your mortgage by 55 using either your ISA or SIP tax-free lump sum at retirement. I like that suggestion. So obviously within a pension, when you reach the age of 55, you have access to your pension commensurate lump sum or your tax-free cash. And what this is basically saying is that if you get to your goal, let's just say we get to 1.25 million quid, you can take 25% of that tax-free. Currently under legislation, you could use that to pay down the debt. Now there's £190,000, I think is the number that I put in on the mortgage debt side early on in the prompt. So that lump sum, that tax-free lump sum, potentially will be enough to pay off the mortgage, bearing in mind that over the course of 10 years, the mortgage payment would have also come down as well. Step 4, use a budgeting system to free up more for your pension. So it just gives you a bit of a template there. And then step 5, growth-oriented investments for maximum return. So within your pension, stick to growth funds for higher returns since you have a 10-year time horizon. The ISA, continue S&P 500 investments, historically a strong long-term returns. I think I put the S&P 500 as one of the bits of information around where I've got some other savings and investments at the moment, which is why it's referenced the S&P 500. Consider a SIP, more control over your investments and tax relief on contributions. Then it's also just suggesting here an annual review to each year increase your pension contributions by at least 5 to 10%. Reinvest returns in your ISA and SIP to keep compounding. Adjust investments, shift towards lower risk funds around age 53 to 55. Now this right here is actually very, very important because yes, increasing your contributions is going to mean that you're going to have the better chance to be able to hit your goal. But talking about reinvesting the returns is very important. So not just putting it into something where you have the dividends payout, it sits in a cash account, it actually reinvests, you can really gain benefit of that compound interest. And then on the adjusting, it's also suggesting that 2 years out. Now 2 years might be a little tight for my liking, but it's suggesting that 2 years out, you want to start shifting from whatever it is you've got it invested in to more safer assets, maybe bonds, gold, something like that. Although it's not specifically saying bonds or gold, it's saying lower risk funds. And this is why I think ChatGPT will miss some of the nuances in terms of what the options are. And I'm sure you could ask the question of, okay, to what kind of low risk fund would you recommend? But you have to know to ask that question in the first place. It then gives you a summary, basically, of what you actually need to do. That's your plan. Very, very simple. So now it gives you a bit of a summary after the actual plan. It goes, do you want me to help you model how these contributions grow your pot by 55? I can also share a budgeting template to get you started with a three-pot system. So I've said here, yes, this is good. Please show me the model. And can you tell me where to invest the contributions? This is all about the practicality of how things work. So it shared the budgeting template with me, although I know that ChatGPT right now can't actually share external links. But what it has done, it has given you a growth projection of what the plan actually looks like in practice. So when you start with £110,000 in the pension, 7% annual growth, I think 7% is a pretty good rate to use if you're trying to use it for this future planning, right? Contributing £300, £800, or even more if you free up savings. Make £20,000 lump sum from your ISA allowance if possible from year 3 onwards. So it's giving you a 10-year projection here. So the current path, £300 a month. There's nothing going into your ISAs. Also already told us you were going to end somewhere between £350,000 and £370,000. If you use the increased contributions, which will be £800, is going to get to £500,000 to £530,000. And this is again with no ISA contributions at all. Now it's saying here that if you use your full ISA utilization and also contribute £800 per month, then you're going to get to £750,000 to £800,000 by the time you get to 55. Now it says the best path, £800 a month plus annual ISA top-ups gets you closer to your 1.25 million goal. You could bridge the remaining gap by working part-time or using other investments. And it says here, would you like a more detailed spreadsheet with different return scenarios? So in this example, I could have just gone for, yes, give me a projection with a 9% or a 10% annual return. It then goes on to where to invest pension contributions. Since you're 45 with a 10-year horizon, growth-focused funds are best. Here's how I'd structure it. So it goes here, equity funds, 60 to 80%, S&P 500, FTSE All World, global equity funds for growth, thematic or sector funds, 10 to 20%, technology or healthcare for higher growth potential. Didn't mention AI here, interesting. Bonds and defensive assets, 10 to 20% to balance risk, especially from age 50 onwards. Now, what's interesting here is it's obviously had a look at global exposure. So it's automatically thinking about diversification, which is really, really good. Obviously, it's got the S&P 500 in there because you can't really ignore America or the S&P 500 companies themselves. But it's also trying to give you a bit of a lean into a thematic, a sector specific that has the potential for high growth. I personally would have put AI in this group for sure, but this is a really good kind of outlook. And then it also gives you bonds and defensive assets. Now, a lot of people, when they try and invest for their pension, what they're basically doing is they're putting all of it into the S&P 500, not necessarily looking at the risk-weighted approach that this is having to look at here. Now, it doesn't actually kind of give you any information on how it comes to this determination, aside from you've got 10 years on the horizon. I do have the answer for that. I'll tell you a bit later on. But I think as a plan, this is pretty good. It also talks about what to do with the ISAs. So continue your S&P 500, because I told it I've already got an S&P 500 one. Add a global ETF, so a Vanguard FTSE All World for diversification. Reinvest dividends for compound growth. And it says here, consider this strategy. Your pension contributions for a long term, maximize tax relief. Use your ISA flexibility. You can access it before 55 if needed. At 55, withdraw 25% tax-free lump sum from your pension to either reduce your mortgage or reinvest. So this is the plan that ChatGPT has come up with. I think it's really good. I think it's great because if you don't have a background in financial planning, you don't know how to create a financial plan, this gives you some really actionable things in a structure that you can go and implement pretty easily. I will say this though, I think nuance is important whenever you talk about investing in personal finances, right? And unfortunately, with tools like ChatGPT, you have to know the right prompt or the right question to ask to get the right answer. And I'm going to use an example here. So, where it talked about making overpayments to your mortgage, and it suggested either from your pension or from your ISA, well, you could use either or, but the question is, what is the right one to use? Now, on the surface, your tax-free lump sum that you get when you reach 55 when your pension is tax-free. Yes, it is. So using that to pay off the mortgage, outstanding mortgage, fantastic, right? But if you didn't use that and you use your ISA, yes, the money in your ISA is tax-free, but it's not alluding to the fact that income from your ISA is tax-free, whereas in your pension, after your tax-free lump sum has been taken, anything else that you take beyond that is taxable. So from a tax point of view, it's better to use your tax-free cash, your tax-free lump sum from your pension in opposed to your ISA. It's not giving you that nuance. And if you don't know the right answer, the right question to ask, you're not going to get the right answer. The other things like, we talked about lifestyling. 53 to 55 start to go into lower risk funds. It's not giving you the detail there. So what type of lower risk funds? That's probably a more obvious question to ask if you can think about asking that question. But again, the nuance is in the detail. Now, for me personally, do I think this is going to take the place of financial advisors? I think it can, potentially. And that's hard for me to admit because I used to be a financial advisor, right? But one thing I do not like about the financial advisor game is that, and I understand why they do this, but it really frustrates me, it pisses me off actually, is that a lot of financial advisors will not see you if you don't have the capital amount available. If you haven't got 2, 3, 4, 500,000 pounds, a lot of them don't want to see you. And I get it because it costs a lot of money to run a financial advisory firm, but you are alienating people. So can it take their job? Part of me thinks yes, part of me wants it to a certain extent, but part of me also doesn't. I think what will happen is that there will be a massive gap that forms, and the gap is going to be filled by people like myself who have moved away from financial advice, who have those qualifications, but now does coaching. And the coaching is really important because as a person, if you go and use ChatGPT and it gives you this step-by-step guide and this structure, the biggest thing that you're going to struggle with is your decision making. How do you go and access the S&P 500? How do you go and pick the right globally diversified ETF? This is where someone like myself comes in as a coach to help you to hold your hand. In this specific instance, you're also 45 with a 10-year time horizon. You're probably worried sick about what happens if I get it wrong. How do I make sure that I get it right? How do I up my chances of success? One of the things that plan does not do is does not help you ascertain the level of risk that you should be taking and the level of risk that you're able to take based on your circumstances. So again, this is where coaching comes in because all of this stuff is important to your ultimate success in this entire equation of being able to retire comfortably in this case study right here. Now, look, my final words are this. The reason why it started asking really good questions like, do you have a matching scheme? So can your pension contributions be matched in your workplace? The reason why I ask questions like, do you have high interest debt or do you have an emergency fund is because this particular GPT is my GPT, is being trained on the principles in my book, The Money Basics, How to Become Your Own Financial Hero. I will link it down below. It's open right now. Go and ask it a question and give me some feedback on how it's actually performed. But I think these kind of GPTs are there as a tool to help people make better financial decisions. And I hope that you indulge and engage in it because ultimately, where financial advisors aren't available and maybe you can't afford a financial coach, it's a really great tool. But if you do need help, you do need a financial coach, there is a link in my description right now. You can book me or at least book a discovery call to see if I can help you. But I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.